Welcome to another show, the Beyond Sets and Reps podcast. I am your host, Dr. Coach Pat Ivey, and I have the special pleasure. If you've coached and you have had a chance to watch one of your former athletes grow up and do amazing things, it makes you feel really good as a coach. So I get a chance to introduce to you all someone that was an athlete, former thrower, and she's gone on to do some amazing, amazing things with her life. I want to introduce to you all Miss Krishna Lee. How you doing, Krishna?
Good day, sir. I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this. We had a chance to catch up last week, and I said we should run it back, like on a podcast. We're
Yes.
doing some amazing things. So, a little bit about this podcast. For me, it was spending so much time coaching and then working with athletes, working with coaches, and now in administration. I was like, that's a lot of phases, interning and graduate assistant work and going back to school. And there's a lot to share. And there's a lot of awesome people that I've met along the way that can help more people.
Yeah.
And I think that's the space that you're in. But I don't think we should talk about what you're doing right now. I think we should go back
Oh,
and dig
we're
up some dirt. I'm not
okay.
on me, not on me, not on me. No.
Oh, I got stuff to say.
Yeah, but tell us about who you are, where you're from, and who is Krishna.
Well, I was born on, no, I'm just kidding, not that far back. Um, Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised. I went like my brother is 14 years older than me. He was a big athlete when I was growing up. My dad coached everything. Like I remember he spent a stint coaching like wheelchair basketball when I was real little, which
Wow.
it was a wonderful experience for a kid that was four, well, probably younger than that actually, probably between 2 and 4, to be able to see that like sports is for everyone from such a young age that it was like I understood that. And so that was really awesome. I started in sports myself, in karate when I was 4. My parents, but our karate instructor said you can't start till you're 5, and they're like, please take this child. Uh, so I started in karate, I started swimming, started playing basketball when I was in second grade, and then in high school, actually, I guess in middle school, my dad started introducing me to some of the throwing events. Um, and so when I got to high school, I also started throwing. So that's what led me to Mizzou and to our meeting when I came in the doors. And I had a great career there. One of the best throws programs in the country, and so I was able to train with some really incredible athletes by my side, and was multiple time All-American, Big 12 champion. Actually, just was inducted into the Mizzou Hall of Fame last fall, so that was a pretty huge honor. And then I went on to coach at Mizzou for 4 years with the track and field team as an assistant coach before moving back to Kansas City and then working for the NAI national office for a quick stint. And I was also the athletic director for Kansas City Parks and Rec for 6 years. And while I was doing that, I also found tackle football as an adult. So in 2015, I started playing women's tackle football and played for our Kansas City team here for all 7, 8 years that I played, and in 2022 made the national team, and so was able to go over to Finland and play in world championships for women's tackle football and came home with a gold medal. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I've done all the things that I've really wanted to do. I got to play with USA across my chest, which is a dream of mine since, sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching the Barcelona Olympics. And I hung up the pads and the helmet, and I have been the general manager for the Kansas City Glory women's tackle football team since fall of 22.
So I don't know if people are trying to do the math in their heads, but like you're younger than me and you've done all of that. So you've done more than most people do in a lifetime, and you like feel like I bet you feel like you're just getting started with some things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take me back to your time as a thrower because I think we have to start with a foundation that you and I both have
Yes.
as because I had a short stint as a thrower as well. I have a claim that I was the first, I guess, male heavyweight thrower,
I recall this.
and wasn't very successful. But we had to get on the map some kind of way, and I did. I tried my part and tried my best. The heavyweight is brutal.
It's rough.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm glad I don't have to do it anymore.
I didn't know if I was going to throw both of my arms off
Right? You
when
were
it's
probably
a
just going to go with the weight itself, all of you, right out the ring.
there wasn't much coaching at that point because everyone was learning, okay, well, you got to go in a circle and then kind of let it go that way.
Yeah.
There you
And
go. There.
counterbalance your weight and all this, and you're just like, how do my feet even work when I'm doing this? I don't even know.
Exactly, exactly. So you were a thrower, historic program.
Yeah.
I mean, Olympic medalist producing program,
Yes.
championship, conference championship, all American producing program, and led by a few people. The throws coach, Brett Halter, and
Right.
then the head track coach, Dr. Coach Rick McGuire. I guess we start with Coach McGuire. And for people that have followed me, you know the influence that he has had on me and my career, and the whole reason why I went back to get a doctorate in sports psychology. Coach McGuire was also Dr. McGuire, and he was a professor on campus, and he taught classes at night after practice. So imagine that
Yeah.
you're recruiting, you're coaching, you're the head coach of a big time program, and you teach at night, and you still have all the energy in the world. So being coached by someone like that, what impact, let's talk to coaches and athletes out there. Let's give them a look into what the impact should be of a coach.
Yeah. I think the very first thing that I can say is like I was recruited by Coach Halter, right? He was the throws coach. So every phone call I had, because coaches only could call back then, right? There was no texting and things like that. Like you had to get on the phone and talk to him. Um, every phone call I had was with Coach Halter. So when he brought me to campus was the first time I met Coach McGuire. And to I mean, I made my decision that I was coming to Mizzou probably in the moment that I met that man. Um, I can't say enough about how he treated every single person on that team like they were his kid. And I remember him saying this, and I took it into my recruiting also. But I remember saying to my mom, like, I understand that this being right here, this kid of yours, is the most precious, the most important thing to you, and you are trusting us with furthering her development. And we take that really, really seriously here. And I thought that is the exact sort of coach that I want. I want somebody that doesn't see me as just a distance, right? Coming out of the throws ring, that doesn't just see me as points at conference, but is invested in developing me not just as a thrower, but as a human being. And I on the drive home, I live 2 hours away. It's not that far, but we got just outside of town, and I was talking to my mom a little bit, and she was like, "You're going there, right?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And I was like, "Well, let me think about it a sec." And she let me think about it for like 5 miles, and she's like, "Just go ahead and call him." It's like, okay. So I had made the call that I was going to Mizzou before I even got home back to Kansas City for my visit. And that's the sort of first impression I had of Coach McGuire. Being one of his athletes was actually like a whole nother thing. You mentioned um, the the sports psych background that he had, and being able to have that at our disposal as student athletes at practice every day was invaluable. Um, and I think we understood that at the time, but like now the further away I get from it and the more coaches I meet in different settings, the more I see just how impactful having him on our staff, having him interacting with us every day, and all of the little tidbits that he gave us that weren't in the formal classroom setting, right? That weren't in the formal team meeting setting, but it was just the little things that he continued to give you bit by bit by bit that made you a stronger competitor in the mental game.
Yeah. So talk about the weight room and how Brett Halter worked with your strength coach and how that impacted your development. I mean, when you end up and you're All-American, you're a Hall of Famer, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
I I was always like a strong kid, right? Like my my parents I stayed out of trouble most of the time, but like I remember when I was a kid, if I like got in trouble, my dad was like, go to the basement and lift the Folgers cans that are full of cement, or like run some sprints. Like I told you, my dad coached everything. So that's how he was like, we're gonna discipline and we're gonna get stronger while we do it. So I came in thinking like, oh yeah, I know what this is. I know how to do this. And I was wrong. The the intricacies, the amount of thought of phasing and development that was put in by Coach Halter um, really, really set us up for wonderful performances when we needed it. And I know, he was working, I think Coach Stoner, Josh Stoner was kind of specific to the throwers while I was there, and those two working together and bouncing ideas off each other and being able to come up with a cohesive plan that was really specific for the throwers, and then even got down to like specific for each thrower when we could. I mean, truly, my it's just I know that I was set up for success coming out of that weight room every day. Um, and I didn't even realize I was, you're around these incredible athletes all the time. I was just telling a friend that I went to Vegas like right after I graduated, and I was in the pool and I had a couple guys come up to me a couple of times and they were like, "Oh, you lift, huh?" And I was just like, "Yeah, man. Like, I don't know why you're asking me this question." And now I like look back at pictures and I was like, "Oh, my traps were up to my earlobes. That's why they were asking me this question." Like I see it, I'm like, "Man, I was stacked." And that was all due to you guys.
I just remember you always had a smile in the weight room, like which was
It's
really cool.
fun.
While you were lifting big weights and stacking plates on the bar, I was telling my wife Starla, I was like, "Do you remember Krishna?" She goes like big with curly hair. I was like, "Yeah, that's her."
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, I absolutely remember her." And I told her what you had a professional career, and we'll get to that in this podcast. And she was like, "Yep, that's why I never played tackle football. If you want to know right there, can you imagine her hitting me?" Like, it's like, no, I can't. Like,
I don't know. I might miss her. She's on the shorter side. She might be behind those linemen. I wouldn't even see her coming.
so, so when you finished up college, did you have aspiration and like go further in throwing?
Absolutely. So in 2008, I competed at the Olympic trials for shot put. Wasn't like the best showing that I've ever had, but I was like, oh, this is the setup. This is what I need for 2012. Like the, the expectation that so many of us were going to keep throwing because that's how good we were at the time. Like if you look at numbers now and compare to where people are throwing now, like I love the growth of throwing since I hung it up. Um, you're like, man, that girl wasn't good at all. But like from where we were, where everything was sitting, like I was throwing with Chris Rohr and Christian Cantwell at practice. Like these are really incredible throwers. I had Terry Steer, now Cantwell, as one of our volunteer assistants. Like we had greatness sitting right there. And so the expectation from ourselves that we were going to keep going was pretty strong. So I threw for a year post collegiately. And as I was finishing up that year in 2009, made US national championships and everything. But I knew I was going into grad school doing sports psych, right? Again, a Coach McGuire influence. And I was going into a graduate assistantship in the compliance department. and I was seeing that like those numbers weren't adding up the way I was hoping for them to. And so it took about, I don't know, it was probably like a 6 week process of me going back and forth and making lists and pros and cons to decide if it was time to hang it up. And I did. So at the summer of 2010, is that right? Yeah, 2010. Um, I made the decision to retire and start focusing on sort of the next chapter of my life there.
Yeah. So you went to work in the compliance department with another former thrower.
Yes, yes, with Mitzi Clayton.
Yeah.
And
To
yeah,
me.
and that was I mean, you kind of touched on part of why you started the podcast was you've had these so many phases, so many experiences in different parts of athletics. And I feel like similarly,
Yeah.
like I got to see sort of behind the curtain when I was in compliance and all the stuff that's sort of done for student athletes that we never ever saw.
Yeah.
And got to be just even more grateful for the experiences that I had as a student.
Really cool because Missy and I, we were former athletes at Mizzou at the same time. So it's just, it's pretty cool when your former athletes continue to be around the sport
Yes.
and give back and work together. So, well, take us to when you hung up the spikes, the cleats. Uh,
There
was
were
it the
no
spikes?
spikes on those shoes. I
Cleats?
actually, I guess if I never threw javelin, so there are
Yeah.
some on there. But
Okay. All right.
yeah, I hung
So
up my throw shoes.
when you hung up your throw shoes, then what? What was next?
Um, I went into sports psych for my master's degree because I knew I started coaching things when I was really young. Um, like I said, I was in karate. My karate instructor moved me up to the adult class uh, at 10, maybe 12, probably 12.
Mhm.
Um, and was like, I'm going to do this, but you have to help teach the kids. So I started there,
Wow.
starting to instruct. And then same thing with swim lessons. I started helping my dad with those when I was really young. And so like I say, I've been coaching for 25 plus years, and people are like, I don't understand this math. I just look great. Um, but it's because I was given opportunities at a really young age to be able to start that career, start that influence, and understand how that all works. So I knew I would be coaching something somehow in the future, and that a master's in sports psych was going to allow me to be the same sort of influence that Coach McGuire was for us. Um, so in doing that, like I said, I also went into compliance and kind of learned all of the really exciting world of NCAA compliance and that very thick handbook. Um, and in that process also dealt with stepping away from sports in from the competitive side of sports, I should say, which was tough.
Hmm.
Um, like I said, my brother and my dad were athletes, they're coaches and everything, and gave me a lot of guidance, but at no point did they sit me down and say, hey, when you are done competing, you're going to have to find a whole new vision for yourself, a whole new identity. Because for me, being an athlete was who I was, right? Like I was always Krishna, the karate kid, or the basketball player, or the shot putter, or whatever. And then it was like there was a blank after my name. It was just Krishna, and I didn't know how to fill that. I didn't know what to do with that. And so that was something looking back on it now. I I wish that was something we talked about more
Hmm.
um, coming out of that. So I did that for 2 years and then stepped into uh, Coach Halter. I was about a like within a week of submitting an application to the Peace Corps because I was
Mm.
coming out of grad school. We're in a
Yeah.
recession. I was like, I don't, what am I? Who knows? And he walked into my cubicle and was like, "You're done. You're done in June, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "We have a director of ops position open. It's a lot of work for a little bit of money and no benefits. You want it?" And I was like, "Let's go."
The great sales
I
job.
mean, and I was like, "Okay." Yeah, and so that's how I ended up stepping onto the track staff, and then we had an assistant coach role open up that uh, was perfect to be able to step in as an assistant throws coach because Coach Halter became the head coach at that point,
Mhm.
and yeah, was able to be on the track staff and start, influencing our next generation and coach people to break my records, which was always a good time.
Yeah. What is it like to see someone break your records?
Uh, when you're coaching them, it's a conflicting feeling, right? Because you're like, dang, but man, I'm proud of you. Like, this is if anybody's gonna do it, I want it to be you. I'm not gonna lie, Kirsten Peoples broke my hammer throw record
Mm.
like within her last three meets that she ever threw hammer. So I thought for a second that I might be able to hold on to it. I was like, maybe. No, that wasn't in the cards. But no, it's wonderful because you feel like you're doing your job well because you always want the folks behind you to have it better, right? You want them to be better, and that's what we're seeing in the throws community right now. And so if she's breaking my records, then she's doing great things,
Yeah.
and that's what we want for them.
But I had a chance to go to, it was kind of a first time throws event. So Sorinex exercise equipment, they do this event called Summer Strong, and they did a live at the conference throws event.
Oh,
And I've been around throws and like, well, we'll probably see some 60s out here, right? Some they were throwing 70s out there.
it's wild.
And I was like, this can't be right because at one point I remember like 71 being like a world record.
It's it's crazy. It's the numbers that people are putting up right now is almost incomprehensible.
Yeah. What so just before we because I know we're going to get into what you're doing now. But what do you think you attribute the numbers and the trajectory and them continuing to go up? What do you attribute that to?
I think we've seen a lot of growth on the coaching side of things. I think there were a lot of good throws coaches when I was in school, and I think there's a lot of great throws coaches. Um, so I some of that, and as we go on, I mean, technology isn't as prevalent in the throws, right? Like you're throwing a heavy ball or whatever, but like just like little you see little changes to technique that start, migrating through the masses and things, and you see jumps there. Um, and I wish I knew more of what could be contributing to it. Those are just like the little things that I see.
Mhm.
Um, but we see those numbers, dropping on the track side all the time too, right? Like there's not a whole lot of records that are standing up for 20 years now. It
Mhm.
seems like things are like we can just continue to progress and see um, just greater performances year after year, and it's really exciting.
Yeah. All right. So let's take it from you were the ops person and then you were coaching.
Yep.
So, all right. Then what was next?
Um, then I moved back to Kansas City. My family was here. My partner was here. My father was in nursing care, and so I just wanted to be able to be back home.
Mhm.
And in doing that, I ended up with a position at the NAI national office, which yeah, it was I never sort of saw that future for me, and it was in legislative services. They saw I applied for one position. They're like, "We don't think that's a great fit, but we really like you. You have compliance experience. How about legislative services?" So I ended up um, sort
Wow.
of in compliance again
Hmm.
for them, and but it was great. Like I was on phones helping athletic directors and compliance officers and parents and students sort of understand the rule books and helping them submit requests or getting interpretations and things like that. And so I mean, it was a really, again, interesting look behind the curtain of all of the stuff that we don't necessarily think about on the sort of the front lines of athletics.
Hmm.
And I mean, great staff, great people over there. So I was really, really excited. Actually, I got hired 2 weeks after the other manager of legislative services, who also came from D1 athletics, and she was on the academic side. And so it was like we were both sort of learning this new sports environment at the
Mhm.
same time, and that was a lot of fun.
So it's a difference working in the conference office versus working on a campus.
Yeah.
I interviewed for a job at a conference before, and it was more, I would say, sterile, more corporate.
Hmm.
You don't get a chance to interact with the athletes as much. How did you like that? And if someone is interested in that, what do you think some of the benefits are working in a corporate office, in a conference office?
I'd say in the conference office or at the, national governing body level, uh, you on campus, I feel like you're kind of always on call, if you will. Like you're working nights, you're working weekends. Um, you have a more stable schedule if you're sort of in the more corporate side of things. So, it was 8:30 to 5 every day outside of the national convention every year. But other than that, like I didn't have to worry about, somebody calling me generally. I didn't have to worry about somebody calling me at 8 p.m. being like, this thing, we'll just deal with it tomorrow. It'll be all right.
Mhm.
Um, but I think the what you and I guess staying on the pro side, you get to interact with people all across the country and get to know people within their own athletic departments and kind of see how different places do things differently. So, um, if you wanted to get back onto the campus side, you might get some nice ideas from different people or be able to have now contacts at all of these different schools to say, hey, how do you guys do this? Right? Like that network of people is so important when you're in any work environment. But I will say, just like you said, I had less interaction with student athletes. And so that's the part that I love. I love coaching. Um, and I was missing that. And so when another opportunity came up to be kind of more entrenched with youth and sports, I ended up taking that and leaving the NAIA. But um, there's always everyone's kind of working for that greater why. And
Mhm.
it's sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves like we're doing this so these these young adults can have these great opportunities at their schools. We're this is why we are doing it for these kids. And if you're not seeing them every day, it can be a little hard to remind yourself of that. So just kind of keeping that top of mind when you're in that sort of corporate setting is always important.
Okay, so I know I want to get to the point of what you're doing now. So when you left the conference office and then you went into working with more youth, talk
Yeah.
about that and then transition us to whatever steps you did to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I ended up at Kansas City Parks and Recreation, which I had been a former employee. I was a lifeguard for many years. My dad was a lifeguard for many years. And so I went back to sort of the system that had helped build me. I felt like we were doing, I did some youth sports with Parks and Rec. And so being able to be in a position to sort of give back to the community that I felt like helped raise me was really important to me. And one of the reasons why I made that move over there. I was also able to be the programmer for youth and adult leagues to help start shaping sort of what recreational play could look like again. I feel like we've gotten really competitive really young here.
Hmm.
Um, and we kind of see burnout at a younger age for some of these athletes and everything, injuries happening earlier
Right.
that may be prevented if we're not so doggone serious with 5-year-olds.
Hmm.
And so it was really important to me to do two things was to kind of bring the recreation back to recreational sports. And that was creating a program we called Let's Play. And the foundation was that the kids are going to walk away with the three F's of fundamental friendship and fun. And that's the point. The point is to have fun, to learn something, and to make a buddy.
Hmm.
And we can do that for, a wide array of ages. Um, and then the other thing was to start talking to these coaches about sort of some sports psych principles.
Hmm.
And my primary thing was just like, don't be the reason a kid leaves the sport.
Hmm.
We've all had um, We've all had coaches that we've walked away from a sport because of, or we've stayed in spite of. And I think we also have some really great examples, one of which we've spoken about, of somebody that keeps you coming back.
Hmm.
And I just really wanted to share that message of like, be the reason a kid comes back, be the reason that they want to be there. And so those were sort of the two things that I
Hmm.
was really focused on while I was at Parks and Rec. And at the time, actually, I guess when I was at the NAI is when I started playing football. So never did I imagine that I would one day be like running the organization with a couple other people, but here we are. So when I came back from Finland from World Championships, I actually stepped away from my position at Parks and Rec, was just ready for a change, and started in on this general manager route, as well as um, doing some contract work and leading some professional development sessions
Mm.
and kind of coaching in a different arena, right? So yeah, that was sort of the start of the next chapter of turning the page into where I'm at now.
I'm thinking about your progression and how it's perfect in terms of being set up to be a general manager. So many people you have to keep on the same page.
Yeah.
You have to understand contracts. You have to understand pay. You have to um, have the relationships with the athletes and agents and other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see you definitely with the experience you have had. And when someone say they want to be a general manager, like you don't just have one skill set that you're good at when you become a really good general manager, right?
No, there's a number of things that go into it, and to be honest, on the women's football side of things, it looks a little different. We are still a pay to play model right now, so um, it's managing a budget in a different way.
Yeah.
It's being able to find opportunities for our women on and off the field.
Mm.
It's operating home games and doing logistics for away games and a lot of stuff that you're not going to necessarily see from general managers on the men's pro side of things
Hmm.
because they have a whole lot of staff that gets to do that stuff.
Hmm.
And so there's between 3 and 5 of us that are really taking on everything to be able to operate the organization. And really, it's less than that if you get into the weeds of things.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about your pro football career. What position did you play? And
What position do you think I played?
I mean, you were probably up front somewhere.
I
Uh,
will say I'm smaller than I was when I was
okay.
throwing.
Wow. I don't know. I mean, were you linebacker?
I was,
Yeah, there you go. I could see that.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
was a um, kind of depending on our scheme, um,
Yeah.
primarily Mike linebacker, and
Yeah.
then on offense, I actually was a bit of a utility player here at home. So fullback, tight end, bumped out to the slot sometimes. I've actually played every position on the field except for quarterback, but I have taken snaps in the Wildcat. So I feel like it
Oh
counts.
my
But somebody was
God.
like, if you were never going to throw the ball, it doesn't count. And I was like, whatever. I've not kicked either, but yeah, sometimes somebody goes down, you look up and you're like, we don't have a backup center, do we? All right, I know the blocking scheme. I can snap. It's fine. I'll jump in
Yeah.
till she's good. So
Yeah.
yeah, primarily linebacker, a little utility on offense here. And then actually for the national team, I played solely tight end.
Okay. Well, talk to me about, I do want to get into what you're doing right now. I can't believe the time is
It
really.
flies.
Talk to me about scheme. I want to hear your knowledge on either offensive, defensive scheme. Like break it down, man cover zone, whatever. I
Oh,
want to hear something.
this is what I'll say. Women's football is interesting because we're bringing a lot of people that are athletes, but didn't have the opportunity to play football generally growing up. We have this wonderful movement of flag football happening right now, and I'm so excited to see how that's going to continue to grow. especially into 2028 when they have flag at the Olympics.
Yes.
But the majority of women that are playing are coming to it being like, oh, well, I'm a fan, but we're not watching with a critical eye, right?
Mhm.
I came to it from having a dad that was a football coach, so I feel like a maybe a little leg up on some IQ stuff. Um, but it really is like we're coaching from the very bottom and trying to get people to a really high level really quickly. And so because of that, I feel like we sort of miss some things, like that we do have some gaps. Um, and so it's the part I love is actually when some of those gaps get filled in, like the light bulb hits, right? And so I I think the best example was on the national team. Our center did a lot of like box counting and like communicating to our quarterback so she didn't have to think as much of saying, "Oh, hey, we got seven. They're in an odd front," and being able to check into a different play or whatever the case may be, understanding, you know, oh, do we is our tight end here? Do we have seven on the line? Oh, we can still run it, or understanding sort of what's happening right up front, which is not something that because I was playing a lot of defense and I wasn't getting all of the education on the offensive side, I was like, oh man, gosh, that makes so much sense. But I was like a few years in before I was
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, why would you run the ball if you're outnumbered in the box?
Mhm.
And yeah, you should be able to see that before we even do anything. Wonderful. And then understanding like different people can have those different responsibilities. It doesn't all have to be on the shoulders of one person.
Mhm.
And seeing how different teams lean into that has always been really interesting to me.
All right. Okay. Let's I know we
Now,
might skip some things, but let's get into what you're doing now. You are kind of putting all of this into a package and you
yeah,
are wanting to help others and take it from here.
yeah. So um, I've been doing some public speaking here and there just to girls' sports camps or to high schools and things. And when I came back from World Championships in Finland, Mitzi Clayton uh, called me up and said, "Hey, we are having a women in sports luncheon, awards luncheon for Win for Columbia," which I think you've probably been to those luncheons in the past. I sat on the board at one point for them. And she was like, "I would love for you to be our keynote speaker." And I was like, "Me? You want me to come talk to all those people?" Jackie Joyner Kersey did the
Right.
keynote speech last time I was there. Like,
Yes.
for real? And she was like, "Yeah, I think you have an experience that people can learn from." And I was like, "I think, yeah, you're right. Let's do it." And so I was able to sort of really get my feet wet and go, "Oh, wow. This really, like I said, I love coaching, and it really feels when you're on the stage and being able to say, 'Hey, these are kind of the pitfalls that I've had. This is what I've learned from them. I want to tell you now so maybe you guys can learn from, what I learned from previously. You don't have to have those pitfalls." These are the foundations of success that I've learned having, been a high school athlete, a collegiate athlete, a pro athlete, a national team athlete. These are the experiences I've had as a coach for this many years, from recreational through coaching professionals as well. And so um, it's just another way for me to continue to have what I like to think of like the small moments where I'm not coaching technique. I still coach high school basketball and track now.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of moments where you're coaching technique, right? And scheme or whatever. And then there's a lot of moments where you get to have those little conversations of, um, hey, you know what? We gotta dream big. You know why? Because I mean it's cliche of like you shoot for the moon, you land amongst the stars or whatever. But like if you don't have anything you're climbing towards, or you don't have anything you're shooting for, like what are we doing? We're not moving forward. And even if we don't get there, we're still on the move, right? We're still on track. And it might look different than it did. I thought I was going to be an Olympic athlete in swimming when I was 6 years old. That's what I thought. I thought I'm watching these people participate in Barcelona and Atlanta. Atlanta is when it really clicked in 96. I was like, oh, I want to be one of these people. And I was like, that's how it's going to be. I'm going to be a swimmer. And I was like, I'm going to be a basketball player. And I couldn't even have dreamt at that time that the way I was going to compete with USA on my chest was in a helmet and shoulder pads on a football
Wow.
field. There was just no way. And so, kind of having that message and reiterating that to groups of students, athletes, the corporate side, like everybody can take a little bit from what I've learned and apply it in their own on their own lives. So I do kind of two talks that talk about how to utilize these pillars of success within um, your athletic career, within your job, at home, whatever that may be. And then I also talk about using those same pillars of success to help us transition um, out of sports or out of our career, whatever that transition is, we can use those same things to help us navigate that as well. And then I do some workshops that really dive deep into both of those topics. So
So without giving away the secret sauce too much,
yeah.
um, what about those pillars? I guess from a former athlete standpoint, helping those to be prepared for when the lights cut off
Mm-hmm.
in the arena,
Mm-hmm.
as Dr. Annie Shadle wrote in her dissertation.
I
Uh,
love her.
yeah, what are some of those key points,
Yeah.
principles that you try to drive home?
Um, uh, Similar to what makes us successful as athletes is um goal setting, right? If you have something that you're now going to work toward, as opposed to just like the lights go off and you're standing in a dark room with no light ahead of you, we got to put a light at the end of that tunnel. So our goal setting is important. Having that growth mindset, you're going to be encountering a lot of things that you maybe haven't encountered before. Are you going to run from them? Are you going to avoid them? Or are you going to meet them head on? Figure out how to get over them, through them, around them, whatever the case may be. Like we're going to be meeting challenges that we haven't had. And then, kind of tapping back into our values. Who are you? Who are you without sports? What are the things that fill your cup? How can we implement that into our daily lives and routine as well now?
Mhm. All right. So when you talk to athletes, what are the key takeaways you want them to use while they're still athletes?
Yeah, I think sort of those same principles,
Mm.
right? Like if I was just talking to somebody and talking about some of our youth there. We have a teen peace conference here, teen peace summit, excuse me, next week. And one of the messages from one of the guys was like, in those moments where you have those choices, right? Like angel, devil, whatever it is, if you know who you are, if you've already done the work to have that personal mission statement for yourself, right? The to tap it, you've already tapped into who you are, what your values are, who you want to be, who you want to show the world you are, then it makes those little decisions that you're making every day and then the big decisions a lot easier because you're tapped into that for
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
And so it takes a little work up front is part of that message. It takes a little work to sit down and say, okay, this is who I am, this is who I want to be.
Mhm.
It takes work to dive into those goals. It takes work to understand your blind spots when it comes to a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. But if you do that work, you're going to be set up for success.
Mhm.
And it's going to make all of those little decisions, all of those moments just a little easier for you to stay on track and to work towards your goals.
Yeah. So, what are some things that we haven't talked about that you think you like to get a message out on?
Oh, I think you were a wonderful interviewer and you've gotten the stuff out of me. Um, I think really, really the thing that has fueled part of this next step of really diving into public speaking and making those connections and talking to people was, like I said, that transition out of sports was really difficult for me. And I've now done it a couple of times.
Mm.
Like I didn't realize it, but I did it coming out of high school. Basketball was my first love. I love basketball. And I I was doing track, but I had never done track without basketball up until I got to Mizzou. And I didn't realize, honestly, until many years later, I was like, oh, I was a little depressed because I wasn't doing the thing I loved. I went to like two women's basketball games
Mm,
like my freshman year because I couldn't handle being there.
mm,
And that was really tough. And I had no way to navigate that. And then stepping away from throwing, again, really tough. I didn't have a way to navigate it. And so when I was stepping away from coaching at Mizzou, I knew that there was going to be a transition there. And I knew it was going to be tough. And I started earlier kind of putting in place ways to navigate it better. And it still freaking sucked. Um, and then, so when I was coming into knowing my last season was going to be that 2022 season, I was like, okay, I know how this goes now. And I started doing things over time that set me up to be prepared when I was standing on the field with the gold medal around my neck, like crying on a football field, because I knew it was my last time there.
mhm.
It was more of a happy release than, oh my God, I'm not going to be here again. Um, and then it also still sucks some more. um, and but it wasn't as bad, right? And I had tools to navigate it. And so I think that's one of the big messages that I want to be able to convey. Is like we have the tools, we just got to figure out how to use the tools. Um, and so going forward, that's kind of one of the big platforms that I want to continue to talk about is that transition and just, continuing to connect with fantastic people like you that have you said it when we were on the phone last week and it really yeah, it really threw me for a loop. You said we have entered our third decade of knowing each other. And I was like that I got off the phone, I was like, that felt rude. Um, but it's true. And continuing to have people with, you know, like-minded ideas and drive and passions is something else that just fills my cup all the time. And so I just really love being able to be in this space and make the little impacts that I can where I can.
Well, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for reaching out and just checking in on an old coach. And
Now I will say I was so thrilled that you emailed me back and to make this connection again because um, similar to Coach McGuire, you said I came into the weight room with a smile, and it's because we had coaches like you that were in there smiling and happy to be there and happy to be imparting your wisdoms and your expertise into us to make us as good as we could be. So part of part of how I show up is a reflection of all of the fantastic coaches I've had in my life, and that includes you. So thank
well,
you.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Shout out to everyone that moved some weight in the weight room.
For
It,
sure.
it was a lot of weight being moved in that weight room. Wow. Um,
Even when we had
that's-
to lift in the indoor football, we were getting
yeah. Yep.
that was
Yeah, that was brutal.
that was brutal.
We had no heat,
No,
no air.
in a built plywood box.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was rough. But those were good times.
it was
Those were good times.
made for great memories for
Yes,
sure.
yes, yes. Well,
Yeah.
I wish you the best. And here's what I want to encourage anyone out there that's listening or watching. If you have athletes or coaches that you believe need to hear this message and you want it to happen in person, please reach out to Krishna. This is what she wants to do. You heard the wisdom here on this podcast. She's got a lot of really good experiences. She can be motivating for your athletes and helping them to focus and goal setting. It can be helpful for your coaches. She's got general manager experience. So definitely someone who continues to rise. And I think that we should all try to do the best job we can of connecting with each other. So, how can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a Instagram, which I'm getting better at social media, but it's at Coach Krishna Lee. And I also have a website. It's krishnalee.com. There's a form on there that you can fill out to say, hey, I'm interested in bringing you in. So KrishnaleE.com, and that'll get you right to me.
Absolutely. And we'll have it in the show notes and everything.
I
So,
figured as much, but sometimes people be driving and listening.
yes.
Actually, if you're driving and listening, do not write that down. Be
Yeah.
safe.
Just be safe and yeah, come back and get it. We'll make sure that we can make that connection. Krishna, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Um, this has been a bright spot of my day. And just keep it going. Keep doing what
Same.
you're doing.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Coach.
All right, take care.